The audience had barely settled in their seats when the lights dimmed, and a soft hush swept across the Ireland's Got Talent studio like a gentle breeze. In that silence, a tiny figure stepped onto the massive stage, his sneakers barely whispering against the glossy floor. He was only 9 years old, but the way he looked around showed something unusual. Not fear, not shyness, but a curiosity, as if this giant world of spotlights and thousands of eyes was simply a playground waiting for him to explore. His name, as the judges would soon learn, was Aidan. And in just a few minutes, this child magician would have a nation holding its breath. But before any of that happened, the moment that grabbed everyone came even earlier. As soon as Aidan walked out, Simon looked up from his seat, eyebrows raised, surprised by the size of the child standing before him. Michelle's visage leaned forward with interest. Lewis Walsh tilted his head with a warm smile. And Denise Van Ouden let out the kind of soft gasp a person makes when something unexpectedly adorable walks into the room. The audience giggled in anticipation. It wasn't every day that a 9-year-old magician stepped onto one of the biggest stages in the country. And they were ready to be charmed. The host gave him a gentle thumbs up from the wings. Aidan took a deep breath that seemed to fill his tiny chest, and then he exhaled with surprising confidence. He began speaking, his voice small but steady, and the entire venue instantly softened. He explained that he loved magic since he was 5, that he practiced every day after school, sometimes even during breakfast, using cereal boxes, spoons, coins, anything he could get his hands on. His parents got tired of finding their forks bent, spoons missing, and cards scattered under the sofa, but they said they never wanted him to stop. Because when he did magic, he smiled differently. Brighter, freer, like the world made more sense through a deck of cards than anything else. Simon asked him the classic question, why did he come to the show? Aidan answered with something nobody expected. He didn't say he wanted to be famous. He didn't say he wanted to win. He simply said he wanted to make people feel happy. The simplicity of that answer hit the room harder than a thunderclap. The crowd gave a soft, ah, the judges shared a look, and someone in the audience whispered, he's already won our hearts. Then came that moment that would be replayed, clipped, shared, and watched over and over again across the internet once the audition aired. A moment that would tell the world that this wasn't just some cute kid with a trick. This was a magician with something special. But first, the build-up, the energy, the anticipation. Aidan reached into his small backpack and pulled out a deck of cards. Not professional cards, not luxury cards, just an ordinary pack you could buy from any street shop. But the way he held them, with practiced fingers and a little twist of flair, you knew these cards were anything but ordinary to him. He shuffled them with surprising speed. The cards snapped together with crisp, sharp sounds that didn't match his age. A tiny smirk formed on his face. And the judges noticed. Lewis whispered, he's good. Denise whispered back, he hasn't even started. Michelle folded her arms, curious. And Simon leaned back, observing like a hawk preparing to catch the first sign of brilliance. Aidan stepped closer to the judge's desk. He invited Denise to choose a card. She pulled one carefully, trying not to reveal it to him, but showing it to the audience. A ripple of excitement passed through the studio. Aidan asked her to place the card back anywhere she wished in the deck. She slid it in with a playful smile. He closed the deck, squeezed it, and snapped his fingers. It was the snap, clean, confident, delivered with a little upward flick of the wrist, that sent a shockwave of energy through the room. He asked Denise to check her pocket. She laughed, knowing full well she hadn't put anything there. But in front of thousands of people, she reached into her pocket anyway, and froze. The card was there. The same card, the same marking, the same face, but it was impossible. The audience erupted. Denise slapped her hand over her mouth. Lewis couldn't stop laughing in disbelief. Michelle leaned back in her chair, stunned. Simon's eyebrows shot up as he pointed at Aidan with a look that said, that was impressive. But the trick wasn't over. Not even close. Aidan walked back to center stage, lifted his hands, and asked everyone to watch very, very closely. He lifted the deck above his head, let it drop, and the cards fell like a waterfall. But out of the cascading shower, one single card remained stuck to his palm as if glued by invisible magic. When he turned it around, the crowd went ballistic. It was the same card. Again. But now the magic shifted. The young magician wasn't satisfied with just impressing them. He wanted to astonish them. This is where the performance's emotional heart began to reveal itself. Aidan explained softly that magic helped him through tough times in school, especially when he felt lonely or nervous or when other kids didn't understand him. Magic made him brave. Magic made him feel capable. And he wanted to share that feeling with everyone watching. He asked the judges to place their hands flat on the desk. Then he requested the entire audience to think of a happy memory, something that made them smile. A murmur swept through the venue. People closed their eyes. Some thought of childhood moments. Some thought of loved ones. Some thought of dreams they still hoped to chase. The energy in the room changed. It became warmer, softer, as if thousands of hearts were beating in a quiet unison. Aidan closed his eyes too. And then he performed a trick that would become the highlight of his audition. He pulled out a plain white piece of paper. Blank, empty, no folds, no stains. He held it up so everyone could see. He placed it in Simon's hands and covered it with his own tiny palm. The camera zoomed in. The audience leaned forward. Aidan whispered one sentence. Think of the moment that made you happiest. Simon, who rarely showed softness, took a slow breath. Everyone watched him. Aidan removed his hand. There, written across the once blank paper, was a single word referencing the memory Simon had shared years ago on national TV. A private moment between him and his mother. A moment the world knew about, but a child magician remembering it and using it with such tenderness, it stunned the entire room. Simon was speechless. His eyes glistened. Louis placed a hand over his heart. Michelle whispered something under her breath like, "How did he do that?" And Denise's jaw was practically on the table. The audience rose. A full standing ovation. The kind that didn't just happen because someone performed well, but because the moment meant something. Because the magic wasn't just tricks or illusions, it was connection. Emotion. Heart. This child wasn't performing magic. He was sharing a piece of himself. But Aidan wasn't done. For his final act, he invited the host to join him on stage. He handed her a marker and a sealed envelope. He asked the audience to shout random numbers. People yelled 12, 47, 3, 99, 18, 6. Aidan selected numbers he heard energetically, scribbling them in a line. Then he asked the host to open the envelope. Inside was a folded paper predicting the exact sequence of numbers chosen by the audience. Word for word, digit for digit, perfect match. The studio exploded with applause. The judges stood up, clapping, cheering, laughing in disbelief. Aidan covered his face shyly, overwhelmed by the roaring energy surrounding him. The host lifted his hand like he had just won a championship. The cameras panned across faces, astonished, smiling, some teary, some shocked. When the applause settled just enough to let the judges speak, Louis went first. He told Aidan that Ireland hadn't seen a talent like him in years. That he had charisma, precision, and something no one could teach, magic from the heart. Denise told him he wasn't just a magician. He was a storyteller. Every trick felt like a journey. Every moment felt intentional, heartfelt, beautiful. Michelle told him she usually understood how magic worked, but today she was clueless, and she loved it. She told him he had blown her mind. Then Simon spoke. He didn't smile at first. He leaned forward, stared at Aidan with the seriousness of a man evaluating something extraordinary. And then he finally said, "That was brilliant. Absolutely brilliant." He told Aidan that greatness came in all sizes, and today, greatness stood only 4.5 feet tall on the biggest stage of Ireland. The audience cheered louder. Then came the moment Aidan would remember forever. Simon raised his hand, and slammed the golden buzzer. Gold confetti exploded from the ceiling like a shimmering waterfall. Aidan looked up, stunned, eyes wide, his mouth forming the softest little gasp. He turned to the judges, to the audience, to the lights, to the falling gold, and then to his parents at the side of the stage who were already crying, overwhelmed with pride. The crowd chanted his name. Aidan, Aidan, Aidan. The host wrapped him in a hug as the golden storm fell around them. Simon stood up, smiling in the way he rarely did, genuinely, warmly, proudly. The other judges clapped with so much enthusiasm that it felt like they were watching history unfold right in front of them. Aidan didn't say anything at first. He just looked around, his tiny hands outstretched, trying to catch the falling confetti. And then, with a voice trembling from pure joy, he whispered, "Thank you." The studio erupted one last time. This wasn't just an audition. It wasn't just a magic show. It was the beginning of a story. A story about a boy who believed in impossible things. A story about courage, dreams, and the kind of magic that touches hearts. A story Ireland would never forget.